Hello there. I had to put my microphone on to make sure you can hear me. Uh, Hello, I'm Grandpa, and I welcome everyone to my channel. I am so happy you have found me. This is Coffee Time with Grandpa, and if you want to go ahead and get you a coffee or a tea, I can wait for you a few seconds. Uh, There's just nothing better than a cup of coffee and good conversation in the mornings. Uh, I am so glad that you have found me because you were meant to find me. My message is purely a spiritual message to everyone. In other words, to everyone should be getting their act together. Uh, we all need to realize a fundamental principle in any kind of faith based religion, and that is, are you happy with your faith? Are you happy with the way your life is going? Are you on the correct path, the path you were meant to be on, to explore, to learn, and to be kind to one another, and to love your life and love yourself first above all? Are you in tune with Mother Nature? Now, for those of you that do not know me, and this is your first time viewing me on YouTube, uh, I'll give you a little bit of background history about myself. I am Grandpa, and I live in the state of Nebraska. I am not a native of Nebraska. I originally came from West Virginia, where I grew up most of my life, but I was born in Germany to my mother. She was a German that ended up marrying an American soldier who ended up adopting me and making me an American citizen. I was even American citizen before I even came to this country because I was adopted through the American embassy in Frankfurt, Germany. That's how I got here. Once my stepfather retired from the military, of course, I grew up mostly in the United States. I was spent only the first 4 years of my life in Germany. I speak German fluently, uh, but that's why you don't hear a German accent on my English, because I grew up from the age of 4 to present time in the United States. So basically, I became Americanized. I eventually uh, had a great life. I am 73 years old. My journey has been very, very long and full of adventures and excitements that I like to often share with my audience out there in YouTube land. I grew up basically. Uh, I was born Catholic, but I grew up Protestant, and then I dwelled a little bit with Mormonism, and kind of was not satisfied until I reached the understanding and the knowledge that makes me a pagan today. I became interested in pagan theology, the way pagans live, the way they view the world, and it hooked me. I've been a pagan ever since 1977. That's when I left the church, so to speak, the Mormon church, and I became pagan. It's basically because of the Mormon church and their views drove me to paganism, and I have been happy ever since. And I like sharing my faith with you. I am a Wiccan. Although paganism is not considered a religion, I consider it more of a faith in loving nature and being close to nature and understanding the natural physical world that we live in, with the spiritual world that coincides right next to each other. The difference between the spiritual world and the physical world is just about little teeny centimeter of distance between them, where just enough to where you can still feel the presence of the spirit world, but you're in the physical reality world that we live in. Now, today I want to talk basically about uh, gardening because this is January, and January is long, and January is it's just very boring to talk about January because it's cold and there's snow out and the wind is blowing. So it's kind of hard to talk about gardening in the middle of January, or I should say the end of January, because we're getting ready to head into February, which is just as bad in my book as February. It is just as bad as January is. Oh, that feels so good this morning in this cold weather. I have my electric fireplace going, and it's just making it nice and toasty in here. Uh, Planting a garden in January, you have all this time on your hands, and also in February, because I don't really start my seedlings until about March here in Nebraska, because we really can't plant anything outside till sometime in May, where it's safe, where the temperatures at night are above freezing. Uh, so I always start growing my seedlings in March, but I plan ahead uh, to where which seeds, which veggies are going to be needing to be started indoors, which is usually your cabbages and your broccoli and your the ones that take a long time to mature. Those are the ones you want to start, uh, and in March, to have them ready to go out by May, or earlier if possible, depending on what your weather conditions are. But where I'm located at, we don't really set out plants until May. Sometimes the middle of May is the only time that's safe, because that's the last frost date we have in Nebraska, in the Panhandle on the west side of Nebraska. Now, the layout of your garden is very important. January is a good time to plan your layout. Where you're going to do this, where you're going to do that. Are you going to add your tea garden over here? How many plants are you going to have over there? Do you have enough space? Do you need a trellis? That sort of thing. You start planning your layout on paper before you even put your first seeds into the ground. Uh, Another healthy tip is make your garden area a habitat where birds can thrive, because you want as many birds will not hurt your plants in any way, shape, or form. Birds will attack your pests, like your slugs and your grasshoppers, which we have a lot of here in Nebraska. The first thing in Nebraska, grasshoppers go after is your cabbage plants and your Brussels sprouts. They love those plants, and they'll eat them up and destroy them within a matter of days. So it's a good idea to create a water basin of some kind in your garden, like a fountain, and keep it full of water so birds can fly by and land on it. And the water will attract the birds, and put a little feeder in there also somewhere in the garden where you could put seeds in for birds to eat off of. Okay. This will attract the birds. And of course, the birds will see the grasshoppers, and they will see the slugs at all hours of the night, and they will become very beneficial in your garden and help your plants. Uh, it's just a beautiful thing to do. Remember, make your garden area bird friendly. Improving the soil is another thing. I always like to take time out in January, February, and March to start improving my soil. If the ground is not frozen, start adding compost Start adding manure, uh, fertilizer, whatever you want to add to improve the soils uh, before you put the plants out. Uh, this is a great way to ensure that you have big yields, and you will keep the bugs down by having good fertile soil. Make it an invite for the worms to come in and break down your soil. And as the worms break down the soil, they create a great compost that your vegetables can consume. Also, um, this is kind of a new thing that I'm going to be trying out this summer, this spring, I should say. In my garden, I'm going to start mixing a lot of seeds together and let them just spread out the seed in a certain area of the garden and let them grow wild, not in rows, not certain amount of plants out there, but just sow them wild and see what comes up, and see if I get a better harvest yield because of it. Just letting them grow naturally. Just putting the seeds anywhere in your garden where there's fertile soil. Mix your seeds together. I mean, mix your radishes and your lettuce and your carrots and your beets and your those type of seeds. Mix them all together and just start spreading them out and covering them with a little bit of compost and see if that works this year. I'm going to try that this year and have more of a jungle in my food garden instead of a more organized where you line up the lettuce rows and the onion rows. There's no need for that. Just let them grow wherever the seed falls because that's Mother Nature, and that's how you get great results. Another thing that's important is don't overwater your garden. Now, here in Nebraska, we irrigate a lot because we don't get a very much of a rainfall. We're lucky to get 1 inch of rain or inch and a half of rain the whole entire summer. So we don't get a lot of rain. So we have to water. And what I do is I water in the evenings after the sun goes down. And what I do is I water about 2 to 3 times a week. And when I do water, I water very heavily in the evenings and letting that water soak in overnight over your vegetable plants, and they will be much happier for you. You don't want to get into the habit of watering your garden every day because that creates a shallow watering system where the roots will not grow deep into the ground. You want your plants to grow deep into the ground and get all the nutrition they can to produce a healthy harvest. Creating uh, trellises for your, don't forget, for your beans and your cucumbers, you want to create trellises that they can climb up and where your beans can grow healthy. I don't really grow bush beans anymore because they're too low to the ground, and usually the slugs come in and grasshoppers and they start eating the green beans more. I don't do that. I go ahead and use the trellis where the beans are growing way up high, where the slugs have a hard time reaching them. Uh, so that's the reason for that. And I love a good trellis where my cucumbers can grow. And now my tomatoes is a different situation. It depends on whether your tomatoes are vine tomatoes that grow or do they stay on the ground mainly. Whether they need a trellis or not. I try to grow my tomatoes near the fence line that's around my garden and let them grow up naturally on the fence line to where I can uh, tie them off and where they can continue growing along the fence line. That's usually what I do in my garden. Now, I hope these tips have been, helpful to you. I hope you've learned something today about starting your garden and start planting your garden in January. Because remember, create bird feeders, and seed feeders for your birds, because you want a lot of birds in your gardens to keep the pests under control during the summer. Improve your soil. Uh, uh, Try something new this year. I'm trying mixed garden seeds. I'm putting all my garden seeds in, mixing them together, and just scattering them out in a certain area. And I want to see if they grow on their own to do better this year. Be careful with your watering. Try to water in the evenings after the sun goes down, and do a heavy watering. Uh, Create your own trellises for your beans and cucumbers, and hopefully, I'm hoping everybody will put in a garden this year to help control your budget, your food budget, because growing a garden for your family, that's one of the best things you can do to cut your grocery bill in half. Uh, don't forget the pumpkins, don't forget the squashes, don't forget the yellow squash, the green squashes, different varieties of pumpkins. Uh, they grow well here in Nebraska also. Just you just have to keep them watered pretty heavily. Now that we've got all that together, I want to remind everybody, like my channel, put an emoji down if you don't want to comment, or put a comment down if you have a prayer request, because I do my prayer requests on the full moon of every month, and the full moon this month is, I think, in first week of February. I'm going to be lighting my little bonfire outside and putting in my prayers and sending them to the heavens. Uh, Subscribe to my channel to get all the updates, because I post quite regularly on this channel. Uh, I definitely want to bring out more information throughout the summer coming up. I'm going to do a little bit of traveling. I'm going to be traveling to the nearest lake I can find, and take you along on my journey. And I'm going to be traveling to some sacred Indian sites around Nebraska, Wyoming, in Colorado, and showing you what area I live in, and why I consider this area here in Nebraska so spiritual, because it is a spiritual uh, happiness it brings to my soul, and I want everybody to feel that joy and that happiness. Sending blessings to all. Don't forget to subscribe, and guess what? See you next time. Bye bye.